Thanks for joining us today on this live webinar. And we're going to cover a couple of things today, including some distribution topics, some promotional tactics, and online merchandising. And we're also going to talk about a case study. And I think that's about it. There's probably one or two other things that we're going to touch on, but all of it is designed to help boutique hotels to earn better revenue, optimize their channels, and all that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's see if I can advance the slides. There we go. So in terms of distribution, obviously, the first step is to be in front of people, to be available, to even be visible, right? So first of all, you have to be in the channel. And then even after you're in the channel, there are many, many things that can drive you to the bottom of the channel or can, cause you to have much less visibility and be almost invisible in that channel. So you want to be in the channel and you want to also have a high visibility within the channel, right? And so those are different things that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. I think when we talk about the first step about which channels you're going to be in, the other thing is some people want to be in all the channels, but the reality is it becomes very complicated to manage all of those channels. And a lot of these channels are going to deliver very few bookings. So you do need to focus your efforts because a lot of these channels can cost you a lot of work and a lot of effort, and they're going to yield one or two reservations a month, and your efforts are better placed elsewhere. So with that in mind, if this is a hotel, right? This is your hotel. Obviously, starting on the top left here with direct, that is the primary channel. Ideally, we would have 100% of our reservations coming through that channel because there's no commissions, but also it does cost money, right? So you do have to know what you're doing with the marketing investment, or you have to have a very long-standing brand so that you can get a lot of people coming to your website, maybe repeat guests or something like that, or maybe your brand is just very well known, but boutique hotels maybe are not necessarily known worldwide, but some are, right? Or some have a very unique value proposition or a very unique property, and people come over and over again, and so those bookings just come in automatically, and well, maybe not automatically, but they don't cost you commission and they don't cost you advertising. So you do have to factor in the advertising, and not only the advertising costs that you spend on Facebook and Google and those kind of services, but also the ad agency fees, right? So the ad agencies tend to kind of discount that or not talk about it a lot. But the reality is you have to factor that in because that's part of the cost of getting those direct bookings. And Expedia obviously is another channel that's very important. They charge about 20%. Occasionally you can negotiate that, but most boutique hotels can't do much better than that. But sometimes you can ask. So that 20%, there are some advantages to that, right? If reservations cancel, then you pay nothing, right? With advertising, you pay the advertising up front and then you get what you get. And sometimes, a lot of those reservations cancel and you don't get that marketing spend back, right? So with Expedia and some of those, you do get that money back. So there are some advantages, right? Even though everybody likes to bash the OTAs, there are some advantages there. Booking.com is similar, but it's 15%. Now the reality here is that both Expedia and Booking.com have started to add these additional programs and additional layers, and they've got accelerators and these loyalty programs and VIP things. They're not just VIP now. They're like three different levels. There's like a bronze and silver and gold and platinum and so these things are they become kind of hard to manage and compare, and it's a little bit misleading sometimes the way they present some of the numbers. And so you may end up paying a lot more in commission than 15% or 20%. And so, that's something that's become a lot more complicated to manage and to measure. And so it is what it is. But I think 15 and 20% are kind of the baseline there, right? And then you have packages. You have a lot of other things that add on to that. And that's where it does start to become very expensive. And then also, it is important to promote within those channels because there's a lot of other properties, right? A lot of people are coming there specifically to shop around. And so, rate is part of that. not only are the consumers choosing based on rate sometimes, but even Expedia or Booking or Hotels.com or whatever, they are boosting properties that have a promotion. That is one of the things that kind of moves you up in the rankings, so you get more visibility. So there's a lot of incentive to produce more and more discounts, right? Now, you know, on the flip side of that, right? If you're discounting and discounting and discounting out there, well, one of the things you can do is just raise your rack rate, right? So that you still get the net. And so that is something that people should absolutely do. I still see a lot of hotels that don't do that very much. So if you're discounting and discounting out there because you have to, for example, the other thing is like with mobile. Mobile is very important. I think, a lot of people know that mobile is a very common thing, but they don't necessarily, a lot of hoteliers don't realize that a very high percentage of bookings come on mobile, especially in the OTAs. Now, this is notoriously a weak point for direct bookings and independent hotels because they don't have the best mobile experiences, generally speaking. But Expedia and Booking do, and they have very high percentages of revenue and bookings that come via mobile. So having that mobile specific promotion is a really big deal. And then Booking forces you to add 10% on top of whatever else you're offering in terms of discounts. So all of these things start to stack up, and pretty soon you've got a very large discount and your net revenue is very low. So then you need to raise your rack, and you should raise your rack, and don't be psychologically intimidated by the fact that, oh my gosh, my rack is $500. But well, nobody's seeing that. Nobody's paying that, right? Because after all of the discounts, they're paying like half of that or less, right? In some cases. And then the other channel I want to mention real quick is Airbnb. I think a lot of people think of that as a competitor, and then they write it off. But the reality is, in the last few years, they have brought on quite a few boutique hotels. So one of the advantages there is that there are basically no chains, I believe, right? So you're not competing with the chains. And also now you are in the territory of these not timeshare, the home sharing and vacation rentals, right? The short-term rentals. And so now you're in their territory. They don't have exclusivity there anymore, right? Now you're in their territory because, God knows they're coming into our territory, right? So, so I think Airbnb is a place where, it is specifically about short-term rentals, and there are many, many millions of consumers who only go to Airbnb when they're going to take a trip and they want to think about lodging. They only go to Airbnb, or it's the first place that they go, right? And then maybe they go somewhere else, but a lot of people just go there. So being there gives you another opportunity to take some market share away from the short-term rental business. And it is a large channel. In fact, the last numbers that I saw had them with revenue bigger than Expedia. So I think that there are some difficulties operationally, but before you get into a lot of these other smaller channels, you should take a look at Airbnb. Also, if you have units that are a little bit more like an apartment, that maybe have a kitchen, maybe a washer dryer, that type of thing, then that is also especially appealing there. But in general, I think every boutique hotel should look at Airbnb and give it a try. Their commissions are reasonable. Some of the operational things around payments and guest interactions can be a little extra work, so I'll caution you on that. But the volume can be tremendous. I have seen hotels enter that channel, and it quickly became like half of their volume. So definitely consider that. All right, let's move on then. So visibility within channels, right? Why are people here in OTAs, for example, right? And promos drive volume, and they must be implemented in each channel on the extranet. And I'll explain why in a second. But people are in these channels because they are shopping around. They don't have a specific hotel in mind. I mean, some people do, sure. They want to stay at a specific hotel, and they're going to just go to Expedia because they've already set it up with maybe their credit card, maybe some sort of loyalty or VIP thing that they have there. So they just go to Expedia for everything. It's just sort of an automatic, right? So there are definitely, a good chunk of people who do that. But also a lot of people who go to Expedia are shopping around. They don't really know which hotel they're going to stay. They might not even know where they're going, like which city or which market, right? So they are shopping around, and that's why promotions are very important for driving volume. And they need to be implemented in each channel because of the following. So, well, I'll show you when we get into the merchandising. It'll be a little more clear. And the banners and strike through and these types of things matter. And I'm going to show you some pictures here in a second. So if you're a consumer, right, and you land here on Expedia as an example, I'm going to move this over here. Um, so, let's look at first there's the strike through, right? What this tells the consumer is that, hey, normally this is 384, now it's 288. This is a special price. This is extra value. And, it at least creates the perception that, hey, this is cheaper than normal, or normally this is a very expensive hotel. And so we're going to get it for less. So, a lot of people just love a sale, right? But the reality is that anyway, sometimes these things are just a matter of mathematics. But anyway, this is an indicator to somebody that they're going to get extra value here, and it is very attractive to a lot of people, right? So for example, if you just lower your rates in the channel manager or in the PMS and push it out to all the channels, you will not get that little bit of merchandising right there. Your price will just go from 384 to 288, and that's it. And it just looks like that's always the price. That just looks like that's the everyday normal price. It doesn't look special at all. It doesn't look like a discount. It doesn't look like it's normally more expensive and now you can get it for a super low price. You don't get any of that benefit in front of the consumer. You just have a lower price. So all you're doing is lowering your price without getting any of the extra bump in volume. So the other thing is that I mentioned before in Expedia or Booking or whatever, when you create a promotion like any of these or benefit, they're gonna, it kind of causes your property to go up and get more visibility. So if you're going to reduce rates and give a discount or offer free breakfast or these other things that cost you money, you should get some extra volume in return. But if you just change your rates in the channel manager, then you're not going to get this extra bump up and extra visibility in the OTA or this extra little strike through that's going to get consumers to say, hey, this is special. Maybe I should get that. So you're going to basically lower your rates and not get any of the upside in volume. It's a similar thing here with this resort credit, right? $400 resort credit. Hey, that's a lot, right? And especially if you're going on vacation, you can do a lot with that credit. And likewise, if you just lower your rate, you don't get any of that. Free cancellation, that's another nice benefit for some people. And deal and reserve now and then pay when you stay, pay later. All of these things are benefits to the guest. Also today, 46% off. That makes it seem like, hey, it's only today. This is not going to be here forever. So you need to act now. So that's what, this is very classic sort of retail strategy to get consumers to buy now. And then there's another free cancellation and a strike through there. Special member price as well, which might be even lower. Who knows? And then the ratings, of course, those are all very important things for the consumer to not only click on that, but eventually to buy. So let's look at a case study here, right? So in terms of results, we had a client, this was a few years ago, and we don't normally do advertising, but they basically told their client to not do any promotions and just have an everyday low price. And so, we objected to that, but they did it anyway. And so without the promos, this is basically what their volume did. I mean, this is real data right here. So this is, I guess, June to June. This is more than a year, right? So June to June and then the next February. And then finally, we talked some sense into them and showed them this and some other data. And we put the promotional strategy back in place, and this is what happened, right? So I think that this is just one example of why we believe very much in this strategy. And as I said, you can still, raise your rack rate to get the necessary net revenue. But the promotional aspect is really important for Expedia and Booking.com. It's also important for direct, by the way, but it's a little bit different. All right, so I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. So now we're going to talk about conversion, and conversion matters an incredible amount for direct bookings. So if you, everybody wants more direct bookings, right? But a lot of people focus on getting traffic and the click-through rates and getting in front of more people in Facebook and Google and all these other places. And they don't pay that much attention to the conversion, which happens on their website, on their booking engine. And a lot of that conversion happens on mobile devices. So here's just a real simple example. This will be obvious to some of you, but I think other people, many people, are busy and they're not necessarily paying attention to these things. And they're, listening to ad agencies that are very good salespeople. And so I'm going to walk through some of the numbers here as an example, right? So let's say you get 100 people that come into your funnel to book a room, and let's say that costs you $500, right, to get those 100 people. That might be a little expensive, to be honest, but let's just say that for example, right? So, and let's say you convert 5% of those people, and your average reservation is $1,000. So you have $5,000 in revenue, right? So your ROI there is 10x, right? You spent $500 and you got 5,000 in revenue. Now, in the other example, you got 100 people, it also costs you $500. And because the acquisition cost might be the same, very often it is. But if you can improve your conversion to 10%, now, your revenue is $10,000, assuming that it's the same average, dollars per reservation. Now your conversion rate is $10,000. And a lot of things can be done to improve the conversion rate that involve, a better experience on mobile, or easier to, find the room type that you want, or look at pictures, or maybe pick your dates, or apply coupons, or what else? Well, pick your room, pick your dates are kind of the key ones, right? And then also the payment, right? And so a lot of these experiences are not that great, right? They're kind of difficult. And a lot of hotel managers have not seen that experience maybe in years, right? They've never actually walked through it step by step with a real microscope to say, how difficult is this? Could my mother do this? Could my kids do this? If somebody's in a hurry trying to do it with one hand while they're on the subway or something like that, could they do it? The answer in many cases is no. And so that's what affects your conversion rate. Or also even page loading time. That's another thing. Sometimes if the pages take too long to load, then people bail, or a certain percentage of them do, right? So, I use 10% as an example here, but the reality is 10% would be really, really good. So, I mean, top performers are 5%. And, even global averages are somewhere between 2 and 3%, depending on the region of the world. So, of all the traffic that you get to the website, only 2 or 3% of those people actually book and convert. Okay, so all right, let's talk about software components. So this is, kind of complicated, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but I like to review it with hotel managers and try to explain it in the simplest possible terms. Let's see if I can get this this pointer here. Okay, so over here, at the property, right, we have a lot of different types of devices that we use, to look at the PMS and look at inventory and so on. But the PMS is basically a database. Down here, you do your revenue management kind of off to the side, right? And you kind of decide, what the rates should be, and you push them back into the PMS. Sometimes that's manual, sometimes it's integrated and automatic, and data comes in from different sources, but a lot of the main data really comes from the PMS. The PMS obviously pushes out to the channel manager, which then pushes out to the online travel agencies, and then out to consumers. and then the PMS also pushes to the booking engine. Sometimes the booking engine is after the channel manager. So it goes PMS to channel manager, and then the channel manager pushes to the booking engine just like another OTA. So some of them work differently. Um, but I think, a lot of these are sort of third-party platforms, right? Like Expedia and Booking.com. And then, of course, way out here on the end are the guests, right? And they're interacting directly with the booking engine or with the OTAs. And as I said, when it comes to mobile devices, the OTAs have historically done a much better job in almost all the regions of the world. And so that is part of why they still, dominate or at least they're holding their ground. Every once in a while, people start to celebrate that, direct bookings, past 50%. But it only, it's usually just a difference of a couple of percentage points, and it'll go up, but then it comes back down. And so usually that fluctuation is 3 or 4 percentage points. And the OTAs have still held on to a lot of business in part because of the mobile experience. It's a big, big part of it. All right, so let's talk about revenue management a little bit. Um, if you think about sort of days from today, right, out in the future, your occupancy is going to naturally be lower, right? And then as you get closer, your occupancy should be rising and hopefully close to 100% by the time that day arrives because those rooms will expire essentially. So one of the things that we like to do is, we've been doing revenue management for some hotels with spreadsheets, and it's kind of a semi-automatic process that we have now. And basically, let's see. Um, so the way that kind of the decision works, and I think we've gone up against revenue management software on many occasions and done a much better job. But one of the things that we look at is the occupancy and the time left. And I think that's the most important thing. That's kind of backed up by a lot of academic research, and even a lot of the revenue management software companies will tell you that it's much more important to look at the number of rooms you have left and the time you have left, and not so much at the competitor rates. Yes, we need to look at competitor rates, especially if there's nothing else, if there's no sales really far out in the future. However, we should not look mostly or solely at competitor rates because that will not optimize revenue. That's kind of a longer conversation. I have other presentations on that topic specifically, but maybe that'll become apparent here in a second. So, if you look out here and you see this kind of thing, right, where, you've got a lot of occupancy, and then here it's lower than usual, you should be lowering your rates kind of in this area right here, right? So that's the basic idea behind revenue management. And so you have to do this analysis on a day by day basis in a spreadsheet. And, now we're starting to use artificial intelligence. So frankly, I don't know if our clients are ever going to, need software exactly. I mean, artificial intelligence, of course, is software, but, we're already kind of at a point where we can take in data with the availability and the dates and, feed it into an AI algorithm that we've built with our decision-making rules. And it makes very, very good decisions about what the rates should be day by day into the future. So I think that's here already. It's just not widely distributed, as they say in technology. So it still needs a little bit of perfection, but I can tell you that I've been doing this for years, and I've been doing it for a lot of hotels in a lot of different markets, and I've been doing it week in, week out for certain hotels where, we've worked for them for 5, 6 years, and we've been doing it every week. And we know when a decision is bad or good because afterwards is when you find out, right? If you could have been higher, or maybe you should have lowered rates sooner or whatever. Um, and I can tell you that these AI tools, if you set it up properly, they're very good. They are, pretty much, I mean, I don't want to say they're better than me, but but they follow my instructions or my thinking very, very well. And so now it's gotten to a point where we can take the data, put it in, and I don't necessarily have to do it manually. So it is automated. It's just not traditional software. And one of the things that that means is that for boutique hotels, they can get the same benefit of having accurate pricing, but they don't have to invest in any software, right? So there's no new software, and what you really want is the right rates based on supply and demand. You don't really want more software. The software vendors want everyone to have more software, but hotels don't really want that. You want good rates. Now you'll take software if that's what it takes, right? But if you can get the right rates without software, then I think a lot of hotels will take that, especially if it's at the right price. All right, I'll move on here. So the other thing I want to mention is speed and iteration. So this is something that kind of gets lost when a lot of hotels they're trying to do revenue management, and some hotels are still struggling with it. Whether they have an RMS software application or not. A lot of hotels struggle with it, or if they're trying to even do it manually, they're pulling in data and they're doing analysis, and they might even have a template like we use. Where you're kind of still doing a consistent kind of thing where you're just plugging in new data and new dates, and a lot of formulas calculate automatically. Still, a lot of hotels don't think about the complexity, and so they're always doing lots of analysis, and it takes like a week or two, and by then a lot of the data has changed, or maybe it takes several days and a lot of the data has changed. So we really think that hotels should be doing this once a week, especially boutique hotels. They should definitely be doing it at least once a week. And it becomes hard to do that once a week if it takes 3 or 4 or 5 days to pull in all the data and do all the analysis, especially if people start asking lots of different questions and they make it more complicated. So I would urge you to keep it simple. And that way, I guess this is daily, right? Yeah, this is once a day. And so obviously with automation, you can do this every day, and some big hotels do it every day, right? They have a whole department for revenue management, and so they do adjustments every day. And even really hit big hotels in Las Vegas, for example, they have this so automated that the rates are always changing, by the hour as bookings come in and cancellations happen or certain events happen that the rates get adjusted. So, with all that in mind, I would just urge you to focus on speed and iteration, because the more frequently you do this and take in the data, make new decisions, adjust the rates in the future, if you can do that more frequently, you're going to get a lot more value out of it. And so if you make it too complicated, it will take a long time and you will not be able to iterate as often, as fast. So that's it. I want to tell you real quick just about this offer we have here called Revenue is Oxygen. If you're interested in some of these topics like distribution and marketing, which obviously gives your property visibility out there on the big internet, revenue management and profitability like we just talked about, and then also the technology and some of the implementation details or vendors, and even staffing and how to manage all of these things, as well as artificial intelligence, right? As I said, we've been working with that a lot as well. So if you're interested in a lot of these topics, I would urge you to kind of consider this. It's really not about spending a lot of money necessarily, or being the largest competitor is not always who wins, right? It's those who are most responsive to change and evolution, right? So I would urge you to be responsive to change. Think about new things that are coming. Try to adopt them, even if they're not perfect. Don't throw them away just because they're kind of difficult or maybe had some errors at first. A lot of promising technologies are difficult in the beginning. So I would urge you to kind of keep an open mind and adapt. Now, what this is not is a silver bullet, right? A lot of the things that we offer in this program, they do take some work, and there's a lot of different things that need to be done, and they all add up to a much more successful hotel. There's no magic software either, and every hotel, we know every hotel is unique, but on the back end, there's certain mathematical and scientific aspects that are really not that unique, and your guests are not going to care that much about whether you have some really unique way of processing the data. They care about having a good experience and about their reservations being processed properly and reliably, right? So you need a little bit of guidance sometimes, somebody who's been through some of these things before. And, some of the topics include OTAs, like we talked about, direct booking traffic, as well as direct booking conversion. I always separate that very much on purpose. And then social media, which is an excellent advertising channel. Email automation, a lot of people forget about email as well, but it's still very effective, especially for loyalty. And then search, both organic and paid. I think a lot of boutique hotels are sold by agencies on the fact that they need to pay for advertising and search and pay-per-click, and they think search is pay-per-click, and it's the same thing. Well, there's a whole other side of search, which is organic, and it's very, very effective. It does take a little time, takes a little work, but it is not that complicated, and it's very effective. And in the long run, it is a much better sort of tool or way of getting traffic. Meta search as well. I think most of you are familiar. I think those are pretty good channels, but there's unique things to do there. Revenue and yield management, we touched on that a little bit, and software and staffing. Plus, you need a basic plan on how to get from where you are today to where you want to be. So you can't just kind of start trying all of these things at random, right? Sometimes there's a sequence. You have to do this thing before you do that thing. And that other thing, might be a great thing, but if you didn't do A first and you jump straight to B, it's going to fail. And it's not because B is not good, it's because you didn't do A first. So you do need kind of a basic plan on how to put these things together, and what to do first and second and third and so on. And so I think that's the other thing that we offer there. So who is this for? It's, boutique and independent hotels, but also, more specifically, sometimes general managers are the people that we deal with directly on a lot of these topics. Sometimes it's the owner on smaller hotels, maybe a marketing manager who's also tasked with this, or new revenue managers, and they can be anywhere in the world, right? A lot of what we do has been done in every market in the world, all over the world. So the key elements of the program, there's 1 or 2 hours of weekly video instruction that's live. We also have some Excel templates that we can give you, so you can kind of get a jump start on that if you want to try and start doing it manually. Even if you automate stuff with like revenue management software, it's good to kind of go through the process and understand the fundamentals first, because I see a lot of people just jumping into the software, and they pay a lot of money for the software and they don't use it very well, or they don't know how to use it because it's already automated. So understanding and learning the principles can be a very important step. We have weekly live group coaching sessions as well, an online chat group, and we'll keep adding new training all the time as needed. And this is a month-to-month program, so you can stay as long as you need and leave anytime if you don't get value, or once you've solved your problems, right? So we do have a special offer now for new subscribers. Normally this is $98 a month. If you click the link below, there'll be a special discount. It is a limited time depending on when you're watching this video, but it is a limited time offer, and there will be a special discount below this video. It's also going to lock in for as long as you remain a member. So whatever discount you sign up for now, you can keep that discount for as long as you remain a member. Plus, there's a 10-day free trial. So, you don't pay anything and you get to test it out for 10 days, and you can cancel, no questions asked, within 10 days if it's not for you. So that's it. Revenue is Oxygen is the name of the program, and the special offer is below. It'll expire in a few days. But anyway, I hope you found some of that information valuable. Again, I'm Rob Russell with Resort Income, and I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.